Hello. In this message, I wanted to touch on the concepts of difficulty of letting go, and what that might mean to us as we let go of our being and let go of things that have become our truth so far, and attachments that we might have established or had with things that we are now having to let go. And so when I address having to let go, I'm not talking about people or things or relationships from the three-dimensional sense of being. What I'm talking about is energetic attachments to our lifestyles that propagated the definition of I. And then within that energetic attachments to the lifestyles, as a subset, you might have, people, actions, and goods that then drew that identification of that subset of the frequency of that being, right? And so whenever we start to shed off the densities that no longer support our expansive living, our expansive way of being, the frequencies that held the limiting notions of us, the limiting beliefs of us, basically start to shift, or what you also might want to identify as dissipate, right? Kind of disengage and dissipate, and the frequency just kind of changes and flows into the frequency of the whole, right? And the whole has this tranquility and peace and calmness within it. And so these lower densified frequencies that have held the identification of I, now upgrade and get dissolved into the vastness of the peace. Within those lower frequencies, before they upgrade, in the past, as they have identified as your truth, you will have these subset experiences and subset of sub-definitions that held that frequency in place, right? And so realize this dissolution of self will, by default, change your life a lot, if not completely. The frequencies that held the density, that limited your notions of self, limiting your ways of being, within themselves identified your life. They were identifying your path of being, your path of expression. And that path of expression held in the experiences, work, people, items, goods, behaviors that were identified as the limiting notions of self, that was this identified frequency or this dimensional expression. And so as you upgrade and you let go and you become the essence of truth, the essence of existence, the expression of self that you're meant to be, everything that held that pattern into place would by default cease to exist. It would just simply dissolve and fall off. And almost in no way you will be able to hold on to those things or those people or those actions or those behaviors or those things that fed in the definition of that frequency. And so recognize things will start to shift and change. And so from three-dimensional standpoint, things will just start to disappear. However that might look like. That part is magic within itself. things will just naturally disappear as you move on into a different place of being. And it is okay. It is okay to see your life completely rewrite itself into something else, right? By default, we would never be able to hold on to or propagate anything of the density that is not the truth of our being, that is not in alignment with the actual truth of the path that we're going into. And so I'm not saying everything will go, and I'm not saying nothing will be there. But what I'm saying is this transitional phase of shift, as the density shift, what is meant to be shifted into the new progression of you will reform itself and restructure itself in a new way. So even if you find the old things somehow still being there, they will be there under a new set of definitions, a new set of rules that were not the same set of definitions, same of rules when they were functioning in the lesser frequency, in the denser frequency. And so the things that cannot shift, the things that cannot come along with you will simply disintegrate and disappear. And then the things that are able to malleably become something else, become accustomed to and disintegrated on this level and then integrated back on this level will come along with you in a completely new miraculous form. And so I say this in a very nonchalant, easy to come by way, but it is quite extensive and quite magical, the process that takes place in the disintegration and then integration of things that are upgrading with you. And then the magic also of this cohesive disappearance of everything that is not coming along with you for the ride when you're now elsewhere. And so it's a very tiny nuance, but it's the nuance that is probably felt by us in the three-dimensional sense the most, because it is something that we notice more so than anything else, because it is still the expression of our physical three-dimensional world. And so understand, what I'm asking here is to understand that process. Understand that holding on to things that are falling away, quite literally dissolving themselves away from the being, and because of your natural progression, is not an option. And then if something is meant to be there, if something is meant to come along with you, it will do so in the dissolution and the cohesion or reconciliation type of a way. And so the blossom of the new world, of the new expression of you, will be vastly different than the previous expression of yourself on a different dimensional frequency, or in the different dimensional expression of being. And so recognize this process, recognize the dissolution of things and coming about of new things. And then welcome that process on both ends, right? Welcome the disillusion with acceptance, and let go of everything that needs to be naturally removed out of your life. And then accept everything that is coming your way, that is possibly newer than new, and completely unfamiliar, but is completely aligned and integrated with your actual way of bloom, your actual way of being. And so the universe will just kind of adjust things for you. Your higher being, your soul self, will just naturally adjust things from the 3-dimensional perception to where everything will fall out of place and into place as necessary, in the natural and most expressive, beautiful bloom of your being, and then things around it, right? The supporting mechanism that that allow you that allow you growth will literally bloom around you and come into your peripheral form of being, and they'll just start to pop up and pop in, and then things that are meant to dissolve will simply dissolve, and then allow yourself integration, natural flow with that energy, right? Resistance to hold on to something that is quite literally dissolving itself is impossible. But then at the same time, resistance to bloom into something new and allow the new bloom to come in is also impossible. So just give yourself grace and acceptance on both end of things. So the integration can one, it will happen regardless, but then so your 3-dimensional form receives less stress, right? Your energetic being receives less stress and is more malleable in order to accept itself and merge itself in with things that are already coming your way and things that are already coming for you. So happy coalition and knowing of self, and know yourself with grace. Allow yourself grace to simply know without knowing, as things will take care of themselves naturally. So happy being.